right. Can you please tell us a few words about who you are? My name is Damea Dorsey. I'm from San Diego, California. Yeah, just a guy that likes the beach, likes the ocean, takes photos, surfs from Southern California, and love traveling the world. And I live in Bali now. That's about it. How old are you, and since how long have you been in this business? How old am I? That's my business. I am old enough to know. How long have I been in this business? I bought my first camera with the intent to shoot surfing in 2001. So that would be 18 years of. We're almost in 2020 now, so almost 19 years. Started with film, and it's been a wild and fun ride, and I enjoy every minute of it. When did you realize you wanted to make your hobby your career? The second I found out I could make money selling photos from surfing. I think the first good photo I got, Larry Flame Moore told me, he said, this photo's gonna be a full page in the next issue. And I was like, what? And I was hooked, you know. So I was so stoked that other people liked it, because every single photo I thought that I shot was just so cool, and it was so fun. It was Christmas morning every time I got film back, and as soon as somebody else was enjoying it and it was starting to be seen by a lot of other people, I was hooked. I was so stoked. And then they paid me too, it was great. This is a good one. Do you consider yourself to be living the dream? Yes. Considering the other jobs I've done in my life, this is definitely living the dream. I mean, I've definitely had some interesting jobs and some fun jobs, but as soon as I started taking photos and was making a living from it, I was definitely living the dream and pursued it hard and went after it with everything I had, and it was very fun. It's become more challenging in more recent years, but it is still living the dream by far. Stoked. What is the toughest thing about your job? I guess the toughest thing now in 2019, almost 2020, is making a living at it. I mean, I still make a living at it. It's not what I used to do, but it's very fun, and like I said, I love it. So, yeah, the toughest thing is probably trying to keep reinventing the ways to make it my lifestyle for the rest of my life. That's the toughest part currently. A lot of competition out there. A lot of good photographers out there. What is the biggest lesson you've learned throughout your career? Biggest lesson I've learned throughout my career. When the wave breaks here, don't be there. That's the best one. Okay, we need to work on the English on this one. Did you ever get in a situation where you see yourself close to death? Not die. Close to death? Yes, there have been several situations where I've been close to death. One that'll come up right to my mind since I'm about to go to Hawaii. Pipeline, 8 to 10 foot Hawaiian. Everyone's shooting pipe. I thought I'd try to get something different, and I slid over to the back door because Kelly kept going right and no one was over there. And there was good reason for it. It was very hollow, very fast, very big, heavy. And the swell was increasing, and I got in position on one and linked up with Kelly. I mean, this was in the early 2000s. I was shooting slide film. You get 36 shots, so you don't pull the trigger unless it's on. Kelly's coming down the line on a big one, riding like a 7.4. And he's just flying through this barrel, and I nail off a few shots, pop through the back, so stoked, and look, and there's just, if you've ever been out at, or even on the beach at Pipe and Backdoor, just the wave after wave line up behind it, and each one was bigger than the next, and I was in 4 feet of water, and it was a football field of shallow reef around me. There was nowhere to go. I got hit so hard. I didn't know whether to swim in or out. I was just in the worst possible spot, and this wave hit me, and I got whiplashed, destroyed, smashed all the way to the beach and back. I lived. I didn't get cut up or anything, but it was heavy. It was not fun. But I lived, so that's good. Do you have a little story, funny or less funny, you will always remember about shooting in the water? Funny story, shooting in the water. How about not so funny? Again, since I'm going to Hawaii right now, let's use that as an example. I was shooting one of the longest sessions I ever shot. I was out. It was in between Pipe and Gums, and like in this little zone and Backdoor and off the wall that was just going off for like all day from morning until dark. And I had been out for about 5 hours. I think it was right as I got into digital, and I still had to go in and change the card a few times, but yeah, no, that's not right. We can edit that out. I was in the water. I didn't get out of the water for 6 hours. And right at the end, around 5 hours, 30 minutes or so, my battery was getting low. I was running out of space. But this guy, random guy, everyone in the water was out, was just going off, like Shane Dorian and Kelly Slater and Danny Fuller, and just everybody was all over the place, it was just going off. So fun, just shooting everything, and it was just sunny and perfect. This guy paddles out, never seen him before. He looks very uncomfortable, unnatural, like he shouldn't be there or something, and he paddles right about to where I am, which is kind of like the impact zone. So you wouldn't sit there and shoot or surf, you would be out there. And he swims right in front of me and starts to go over a wave and sits on his board right in front of me and pokes the tail of his board, the fin, in my eye, like right here. I've got a scar from it. And he just blew up my eyebrow like a golf ball, split it open. Like, I don't even know how that could happen that quick and easy. And I have a photo of it on my Instagram. It's just horrific. And I was so pissed because I had to go in. I had this golf ball size split in my head, and it's like the best guys in the world were out, and I wasn't ready to go in. But it was a 6-hour session. I had to go in, and they had at the time it was the ASP. The doctor was on the beach. I went in to go get stitches. Got stitches, and then went in and started editing all my photos with a golf ball split open eye. Yes. Do you hire interns to work with you? Yes. So when I was working for Trans World Surf, I'd have a lot of things where I'd be on assignment, and I started shooting a lot of the ASP or WSL events, as they're now called. And, it's hard to be two places at once, so I was getting hit up by a lot of interns, and I hired them to come down and help out with events and stuff. There's a couple of them, and it was nice because then I was free to go in the water, and then I would just give them the assignment of catching lifestyle stuff on the beach, explaining what to look for, shoot some action, and train them up on what to look for and what to do. It was a lot of fun, and it was kind of, I was always depending on myself to get everything, and it was just a wonderful bonus to be basically in two places at once. So I really enjoyed it. And sometimes when you're teaching somebody else what to do, where to be, and how to do it, sometimes you learn a few more things yourself. So I found it to be a really good experience and loved doing it. Would definitely do it again, and maybe in the future I'll have a chance to do it again. I don't know. All right. What kind of camera do you use? I have 2 camera bodies. I feel it's very important to always have 2 whenever you're shooting, because not very often, but sometimes something happens and you need a backup, and that's what a professional is, have a backup. I use a Sony A9 and a Sony A7R Mark III, and they're both really good cameras, and yeah, that's what I use. Sweating. What is your water camera equipment? You mean water housing equipment or the cameras I'm using? The cameras I'm using are both my A9 and my A7R Mark III. Both fit in the same housing. Liquideye makes a 2060, and both of those fit in it perfectly. Like the bodies are pretty much the same. It's only a minor difference, so it's really nice because then I've always got a backup. And they're both, one's very large format, 42 something megapixel, and the other one is just 24. But one shoots faster, more frames a second than the other. So it's nice to have those options. And if anything happens, I've always got backup. Good advice, trust me. What camera gear will you recommend to start water photography? If you're going to start your water photography, I recommend any camera that fits in a housing. And when I started, you had to have somebody make a custom housing to fit whatever camera you had. I had the Canon A2E film, 36 shots. That was it. Now it doesn't really matter. Whatever you get your hands on, whoever is going to pass something down to you, maybe buy something used. I don't know, but you just take it, you figure it out, you get really intimate with it, you learn the ins and outs of the housings, all the subtleties, make some mistakes, learn some lessons, make some good mistakes, which turn into, learning curves that I've made mistakes that turned out amazing. I've made mistakes that have turned out really bad too, but it's all an experiment and it's all fun. And so any camera, any brand of camera is going to work. I mean, if you just have a connection with a friend or somebody or a housing company like Liquideye, and you could go to them and say, hey, this is what I want to do, what do you recommend? Maybe one of the other guys is selling one of his cameras and their housing. That's usually the best, because then you get it for a little bit less, and you can ask them for some advice. And yeah, I think it's a good starting place, is just to if you've got a friend or a company nearby that you can get a used one from, and then if you don't destroy it, or if you do destroy it, you can get another one, get a new one, because they're always coming out with something new. So yeah, someone who can help give you advice that has had that same equipment is usually the best way to go, in my opinion. What kind of advice will you give to someone who's looking to get into surf photography? My advice for someone getting into surf photography. enjoy it. I mean, is that advice? Yeah, I mean, it's fun. So, I mean, don't expect to make a lot of money anymore, but definitely fun. My advice would have to be kind of what I said before. I guess find some used housing. That doesn't have to be used housing, but typically if you get some used gear, it'll save you a little bit of money in the beginning, and you can work with something that isn't quite as expensive to make a mistake. But whatever housing or camera you get, it's going to be fun. Don't put your camera setup in the sunlight before you go in the water. Keep everything in the shade so it doesn't have a big heat distribution, so when you go in the water it fogs up. Or don't let a drip of water or wet hands touching the camera before you put it in the housing in a warm day. That'll fog up. There's some advice. Have fun. It took me forever to get to my point.
Yes.
What is your best advice for young generations outside of surf photography? Do you mean just in photography in general? Outside of the surf industry? There's so many photographers now. I almost ask them what they would advise me to do. That's a tough one. Find your style. There you go. Find something you do well and really push that one thing so people know you for that. If it's portraits, if it's interview, if you're videoing as well, I guess. But I mean, if you're just like great at with people and taking portraits, then make it known that you are good at portraits. Or if you were good at action, then be known as an action photographer. Being known for something means that every time somebody wants to hire someone to do portraits, your name will come up. And I think that helps people develop a style, something that people, when they see a photo, will recognize it's your work. That'll probably help your career the most, being known for something. That's about it.